You want to stay informed, right? But sometimes the sheer amount of information is, well, overwhelming.
Yeah, it's easy to get lost.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into something quite specific, actually, but with wider implications. It's about a really difficult situation in Singapore.
That's right. A severe bedbug infestation in an HDB block. It seriously impacted quite a few residents.
We're working off a report here from 2230, which details what people went through at Block 420 Ang Mo Kio, Avenue 10.
Mm-hmm. It's quite the story. Really shows how these things can just, blow up in places where people live close together.
Exactly. So our mission today is to unpack how this started, how bad it got for the residents, and maybe what could be done differently next time.
Okay. So where did it begin?
Well, the report points to a vacant unit. Apparently, the resident had been hospitalized, so the flat was empty for a while.
Ah, okay. And that's when the problem started.
Seems so. Mr. Zhang first spotted bedbugs out in the corridor around mid-April. April 13th, the report says.
Just out in the open corridor?
Yeah. And it didn't take long for them to get into his place. Started finding them on his furniture.
Wow, that's fast. And I guess in those HDB blocks, things can travel easily between flats.
That seems to be the case here. Spread and not slowly.
So who else was affected?
Well, there's Miss Jia on the same floor. Her story is pretty intense. She describes seeing like 40 or 50 bedbugs coming into her home.
40 or 50 actively coming in? That's horrifying.
Right. She said they were laying eggs, biting her. It got so bad she actually had to take time off work.
I can believe it. Sleep deprivation, the stress. It takes a toll. What does she do?
She was trying everything, stuffing towels under the door gaps, pouring water along cracks, just desperate stuff to create a barrier.
Just trying to block them physically. And it wasn't just that floor, was it?
No. The report mentions they even got into flats on other floors. Ms. Zhu saw them coming in through her windows.
Through the windows. So they were climbing the exterior. That shows how widespread it got.
Definitely. And another thing that stood out was, well, the usual solutions didn't work.
Like regular insecticide sprays.
Yeah, the stuff you'd normally buy. Apparently, it just wasn't effective against these bedbugs.
That's common, unfortunately. Bedbugs can build up resistance, especially to the standard chemicals. You often need more specialized formulas.
Which cost more, right?
All right.
The report mentions one neighbor spending hundreds of dollars just trying to fight them off.
Absolutely. It becomes a significant financial burden on top of everything else. And the question is, should residents bear that cost alone when it originates elsewhere?
That's a really good point. So what eventually happened? Did someone step in?
Thankfully, yes. The authorities did get involved eventually. They got permission from the hospitalized resident, the one whose flat was the source.
Right.
And they were able to do a proper fumigation of that vacant unit, sealed it up, used the strong stuff.
Okay. Dealing with the source, did they treat the other affected flats too?
They did. It took multiple rounds of pest control, but eventually things started to improve for the residents.
That must have been such a relief. But it raises some big questions, doesn't it?
Definitely. The report brings up things like, should there be some kind of protocol for checking on empty flats in buildings like these to catch things like this early?
Yeah, like preventative checks.
Mm-hmm.
And what about help for the residents affected? Financial help, maybe? Subsidies? It seems unfair they had to spend so much money on a problem they didn't cause.
It does. And the idea of maybe even routine preventative fumigation for whole communal estates was floated too, though that has its own complexities, of course.
Sure. But looking at the bigger picture here.
It really drives home how linked everyone is in high-density housing. Your neighbor's problem can very quickly become your problem.
So key takeaways. Just how incredibly fast a bedbug issue can escalate from one empty flat and spread through a block.
And the huge toll, not just financial, but emotional, too, on the people living there. It really highlights the need for better prevention, better response plans.
Absolutely. Which leads us to a final thought for you, our listener.
Considering how interconnected life is in shared housing, how can we as communities working with authorities get better at preparing for these kinds of public health challenges before they happen? How do we move from just reacting to being genuinely proactive?